Adab Namaste. We're back on India's Business Legends with yet another interesting story. Today we have with us Komal Seth, who's a travel entrepreneur. Let's meet her and ask her what exactly she's doing. So, hi Komal.
Hi.
You have a dream job. A lot of us would probably give our kidneys to be having a job wherein we're traveling so much. So, this month, how many days did you travel?
I traveled actually 27 days out of the last 30 days. Not particularly February, but yeah, I did travel 27 out of the 30 days from the time that I traveled.
That sounds amazing, but was it hectic?
It is very hectic, but it is also a passion. When your passion is your job, then the hectic doesn't seem so. But yeah, the body takes a toll, the mind takes a toll, but you manage.
So explain to our viewers what exactly you're doing at your company.
We have a travel PR and a representation company wherein we actually promote and represent products from all over the world. It is as big as countries and as small as travel companies. India is the market today. Everyone is viewing at India. Everyone's looking at Indian travelers going abroad. So in order to do that, every private sector and tourism board sector has to invest into India to let them know what the world is offering for Indians. So we are actually an intermediate arm between the world and the Indian travelers, and we guide the media and the travel industry how and when to promote what product.
So how are you different from the popular travel websites like Agoda or Make My Trip and the likes?
I don't know if I can disclose this, but this is a technical thing. We are actually a B2B partner wherein the tourism board, airlines or travel companies and hotels, they work with us. They guide us how to sell their product, and we further then guide travel companies to sell that product. Any destination that you see is popular in India versus another. That means that tourism board or private sectors or hotels of that area have decided that India is the market and they invested into India. So when you see a particular itinerary, there are 2 years of hard work that goes beyond it. The tourism board, the airline, the hotel, the local travel sectors of those companies have come to India. They have guided the travel agents, the online travel companies, travel consultants how to sell a destination. If you see recently, Azerbaijan is doing really well.
Right.
It is just not that any destination comes up. It's years of hard work, it's years of planning, and it's people like our company who encourage travel agents and online companies to invest into a new product.
So what all goes into the research of it all? How do you probably fix it that okay, let's make Udaipur as the most famous destination for this year?
So I think as a travel partner, it is not up to us, but every year on year, tourism boards, airlines, they decide India is a market for us. They design new campaigns. There are some countries who've been present in India for really long, Singapore, Thailand, no marks for guessing, but they reinvent themselves. They reinvent new programs, visa-free policy, visa on arrival, buy one, get one free, because competition never dies.
True.
And you should never be complacent. So countries who are already popular in India, they reinvent themselves, and the ones who've not been popular, the newer destinations, Eastern Europe, parts of Russia, they come in to India by offering new products, but this is offered by them. And the government plays a very, very big role, which as customers or travelers, we never realize that what is the hard work that has gone beyond to seed, to sow a seed of a destination in your mind. Because you're thinking of a destination, it means companies like us or the travel partners or the travel people who are working from the back end, they have invested into media, they've invested into social media, they've invested a lot into trainings, products, and that is how a particular country has become the, out of recall. How you say, when you want to travel now, suddenly people say, oh, you know what, there's a new destination, Azerbaijan, or there's Almaty, or Sri Lanka is doing really well. I've heard South Sri Lanka is really good. Have you been there? So these are the conversations which actually we aim at.
So how do you differentiate between an offbeat destination, something which is not very popular, and a destination where which is trying to gain popularity?
If I can explain by example, when travel agents, customers call travel agent, then they know the destination they want to travel to, because they know they want to travel to Thailand or Singapore or Dubai. They know the hotels they want to stay in, they know the exact route, the exact room type. But yet they want the agent or a travel company to plan the itinerary. They have 50% of knowledge, and the 50% of knowledge they are looking at from a travel consolidator or a consultant. But in offbeat destinations, they look up to a travel company to let them know how they should travel, what's the right area. So here the agent is more powerful, the travel consultant is more powerful, because they've been trained by the tourism board, by the airline, by the hotel sector. So obviously this game changes after 5 years. Customers become more aware. But I think you can't ever be a master of all. You have to learn through the trade.
Now coming down to your company, when did you get the idea? How did you start it?
I was working for a company like ours, and in 2015 I started the company. I think it was just an entrepreneur skill, and I did well. In our job, people believe not in the company, but the belief in the person that you're working with. And because here you work with a person, you are their representative, their name in India. So they have to have faith in you.
True.
And I think even in any product, even in the investment game today, there's so many products, there's Shark Tank, there are people who want to get invested into. I think people invest into people invest into people's ethics, and of course basic IQ. But beyond that, I believe that people could believe in me, and that's why I started the company. We started very small. We were a 2-people office, and we went up to almost 15 people.
And where did you start
pandemic.
from? Did you have this fancy office? I love your office space. It's very green and it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, so we started off from here. We were a 1-room office here. When we started, there were only 2 people and 4 plants.
Okay.
And I think the journey of plants over here just tell you how much we've grown in life, because we started investing into office people and into thoughts and processes. But yeah, it's no journey is easy, you know, even if it's a 10-people office or a 100-people office. Thought process is the same. How you get lucky, how your stars favor you, how you have right partnerships. That's I think quite luck based. But hard work, commitment, sacrifice, and more than that, to be deceived by people is a great process of entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
And if someone says that, you know, we've not been deceived, or, you know, we made the right decisions, I don't think they've gone through the grind of the entrepreneurial journey.
So tell us about your growth. How have you grown?
So we started early in 2015. We were a 1-room office with maybe 4 plants. Today, as you see, we've grown from maybe 4 plants to 200 plants, from a team of 2 people to up to 15 people pre-pandemic, and of course now also the team is big. So yeah, the journey starts from 1 chair, 1 table to a team, but the fears are always the same. I don't know how people don't show fears, but there are fears always, because you are chasing your dream, and the people who are working with you, they are chasing their livelihood. So the pressure is always high.
So how much money did you invest in when you started?
We invested about 20 lakh initially, and it was not easy at 2015. As a single girl entrepreneur, I went to a bank and they didn't even understand what the business was. They said, but I remember the bank manager asked me, "Aap bechte kya ho?" I couldn't tell him that what we sell and what we buy.
Right.
So I took an unsecured loan, because secured banks were not ready to give me a loan. And then after getting a loan, you think you can travel everywhere, because for us, getting clients is traveling abroad. It's not that I'm going to Connaught Place to get a client. I'm seeing something in the world map, and I'm saying, okay, I'll go to this tourism board or this airline or this hotel to tell them that I can make them popular in India.
Right.
So with the little money that we had, in the first 3 months, we spent 70% in traveling, thinking that, you know, we are making the right decisions, but then we got to know that we made wrong decisions. So in the 30%, we survived the next 1 year. But I think when clients believe in you, when the cycle gets rolling, you get there. But yeah, struggle of finance, struggle of bank loans are always there. And I don't think I do anything other than being a chief admin officer. I just do admin jobs all day, from the most irritating job of giving OTPs all day, because you feel you're a very powerful entrepreneur if you've kept OTPs on your phone. And from even solving issues like plants have died and, you know, we have to redo our terrace, so all comes our way.
How does a deal look like? How do you travel? And is it all fancy?
So there's nothing fancy in our travel, but working with media, working with Instagrammers, we've also learned that we have to show everything fancy. There are times that we take a low-cost airline. We never put that. I don't put that on my Instagram, but I put the fancy hotel which my client is paying for on my Instagram. But I think traveling over the years has taught me that there is no shame in traveling in anywhere, anyhow. It doesn't affect me, but the struggle is very hard. One of my suitcases is always packed in my car because I have to leave in 2 days. You have to struggle, you have to juggle. My business suits are always in my car because we have to go for road shows, we have to look great. In the hospitality and travel business, you may not become a millionaire, but you always have to look like a millionaire.
True.
So you have to be in a business suit, you have to walk the talk. So those struggles are real. Looking great, wearing business suits, having fancy cars, having fancy meals. But I have lost my passport at the airport. I did not receive my check-in bag for 3 days, wherein I had the most important picture of my life.
So how did you manage?
I had a credit card which was just left in my pocket, and I'm very forgetful as a person, as my innate nature. I'm a forgetful person, and between all of that, I do this struggling travel. So I had a credit card. I bought something from the departmental store. I used the hotel toothpaste, cream, and otherwise cut. I'm so particular about the stuff that I use. But when going gets tough, stuff gets going. You forget, you know, this one moisturizer is your blush, is your body cream, and it's your everything. In one of the most important client meets, we didn't have the budget. We stayed in a hostel, 3 people together, coming from an Orthodox family who had never even traveled with a guy before. We 3 of us shared one room, and you know, we took turns of bathroom. But this was early in our career. But I think the biggest gift that traveling gives you, it puts your inhibitions down. It makes you more perspective driven, and I think the best gift that traveling has given me, it has stopped making me judge people and situations. Because as we grow, when we are raised as kids in life, and the society that we are raised in, we are taught that these things are absolutely wrong and these things can't happen. And you go live in some other part of the world, what was absolutely a non-negotiable for you is a regular daily activity for them. So you don't know whether your right is right or their wrong is right. So traveling opens your perspective and makes you take people as people, humans as humans, and relationships as relationships.
So you spoke about an Orthodox family, and I think a lot of women do deal with this thing, that it's the family that actually ties them down. So how did that come around? How did you manage to convince your family that, okay, I've got this travel bug and I'll be traveling, and my business would be so that you'll be probably traveling 20 days in a month, 27 days in a month also?
I think I didn't orthodox was the wrong way, but I was from a very protected family. For me to travel and them not to know whom I'm traveling with or how can I travel alone was a nightmare. But I think when you see your spouse, your child, your partner growing in life, being confident, you know how you say your perception is of the reflection of the other person. So the reflection that I put on my family and the people who are close to me once I travel, I think it makes them confident. My confidence makes them confident, because when you come back from good news, good travel stories, telling them these are the people you met. Sometimes when you're lucky to travel business class, you meet some really good neighbors who are sitting with you. So people feel that you've grown. But it's hard struggle. I think as a girl, it is tough. You do well, then you are branded a certain prototype. You look well, you are smart, you are tez. You don't do well, then people say that she's just trying to prove herself. I think more than the entrepreneurial journey, for me, 3 years was very tough because I used to see and hear all of this. So that did not really go in our favor. But
how did you deal with all of that?
You know, sometimes you come back home and you cry and you tell your parents that what is this. You share with your friends that, you know, I worked so hard on a presentation, and then I heard that I got this presentation
Because you're a woman.
Because I'm a lady, maybe because I was out for dinner, or but I think you have to grow over. You have to become a more powerful person, and you have to believe in yourself. And I think one very important part is that you have to have a very strong set of people who believe in you. And I do believe there is a world that we travel with, be with. But if you have 5 people, including your own team, who believes in you, they know. You know, there were times that I've spoken to my team, because my team is like family to me. And I said, you know what? I heard this about us, or I heard about this about you. It really hurt me, but I don't think it even hurts me anymore. When I hear, I just laugh.
So do you think you've become thick-skinned?
I don't think, you know, no one becomes, if your basic nature is of a sensitive and a good person, you don't become thick-skinned.
Since you're traveling so much, how did you make out time to get married?
You know, everyone's telling me to get married and get settled. But one thing I always tell people right now is you get married and you get desettled. Because you're very settled in life. You get married and you desettle, and then the process of settling starts
You add more things to your platter to take care of.
No, but desettle also means that your car is not the same, your office is not the same, your bed is not the same, you know, atmosphere is not the same. You're struggling in life where you got food at home, which people knew what you eat when you come back. Now cut, you're married and you're into a new household, so you have to settle those things again. But I think I decided that I run out of excuses to why I don't want to, you know, get married anymore. And when I thought that I found the right person, I did it.
So how did you meet your husband?
So this was a time that I was not traveling for 2 days, and I decided that, you know, I might just go on a online app that was sitting on my phone for 1.5 years, which I'd never logged in. And I didn't, and I had those 1.5 days when I was not traveling. I logged on to it, and it seemed very interesting because everyone seemed to be interested in you because you put your best pictures.
True.
And then you meet up. I met my current husband, and we met online. And then I said that, you know, I'm meeting you today, but now I'm traveling for 15 days. I won't be available again. But then when you find a person, then you find time to chat. I think the airport wait, the airport lounge, the flight delays suddenly become very nice because the whole time goes in chatting. So yeah, sometimes WhatsApp is the biggest boon
for a relationship.
For a relationship, yeah.
That's actually very sweet.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us don't look at it that way, that if we get any time, we could probably be spending it with the people we want to spend it.
Or you can actually use it for exercising. I'm very, very particular of what I eat. It's easy to say that I have a job and then I've given up, but then you practically give up on everything. So I follow my intermittent fasting. I do it for 16 hours, hailstorm, hell, wherever I'm traveling, I do it.
That's possibly the bottom line, that, you know, for people who want to be successful, they will have to take care of themselves first, physically and mentally also.
The best love to yourself is, I think if you love yourself, you can love people around you and you can love your job.
Right.
And giving up is easy. I try not to give up. I do give up sometimes. And I only wonder, you know, in the entrepreneur journey, I'm like a peanut. But there are people who do way more. They have way higher schedules. There are finances on their mind. There are loans. I don't know how, I look up to those people, you know, who are fit. When I see an entrepreneur who's really successful and is fit, for me, my 100 on 100% marks for them are already there. Yeah.
All right. Now taking the conversation forward and in fact going back to your business. So how many clients are you doing?
We're a boutique travel PR and a representation company. We do not take a lot of clients on board. And if we have a client whose competition products come to us, we don't take it because we have to focus.
Right.
So if you're doing a particular country, then we would not promote other countries who are in the competition set. But I think saying that, even the client always has that requirement that we cannot promote anything that is in their competition. Post-pandemic, one thing changed, that we also got into lifestyle PR, and we've been doing certain restaurants and skincare brands, which I always underestimated myself that we will never be able to do it, but we've done very well for them as well.
And how was the pandemic for you? It was terrible for a lot of businesses and yours was the worst hit one.
Actually, one thing the whole travel industry realized, that anything that happens in the world, whether it's a bomb blast, it's a pandemic, it's a political showdown, the first thing that is affected is travel.
True.
So all of us looked at alternate businesses because 2 years was very, very tough.
It was.
But I think God was kind, and touch wood, the destination that we were marketing, both the destinations were open. And people were traveling there. So our clients believed in us. They continued paying us, and I think there, in those times, I used to really thank my stars that God favored us, our hard work paid off, and those were tourism boards that believed in us. Those were no small clients, and I think everyone during that time, if you wanted to support, clients supported us, the company supported the people, all of us who worked for the company, but pandemic also gave us a lot of time to reinvent, relearn. We worked on our systems, and we got business from random business from airline clients, from people who were doing private charters. We used to get calls in the morning that, can you do a 2-day project for us, 4-day project for us? And we never used to say no, because we realized as a company that God has been kind to us, that they kept us on, how do you say, ventilator by having 1 or 2 clients. But if we need to continue, we all worked. And I remember there was a client who called us, and he wanted us to do a certain job. We didn't know ABC of that job. But I said, yes, we will do it. We do it. I said we do it. But the fact was, we didn't do it. In 2 days, the entire team went on Zoom calls. We learned from some other professional, and we were activated on the 4th day. We did the job.
That's awesome. And I think that's the very spirit that an entrepreneur must have.
Yes.
So how are you doing business-wise?
Business-wise, I think the entire world is looking at India. India is the growing market. China, of course, China and India are the competition markets. But China, with the pandemic, has not been able to come back to the #1 tourist traveling to the world. Smaller countries of Europe, boutique hotels in Europe, smaller islands somewhere near Australia, they are investing into the India market. They want as low as practically a country or a province having a target of saying that we just want 100 tourists, 100 Indians a year, because India's on the statistics for everyone. We're doing very, very well as a travel industry. Are we doing as well? Debatable, because ultimately it's the B2C, the people who deal with customers, they do well. Tickets are sky high. Bombay, I was in Bombay last week, no room was less than 20,000 a night. I think also India is also an investing market. We're a market where the whole world wants to invest. So people are traveling from the point of view of investments, mergers, acquisitions. So hotels, domestic hotels in India are doing well because we are doing financially well. GDP is on a great number. But outbound tourists, one very important point that I think I didn't mention, I think pandemic taught us to travel like travelers and not like tourists.
True.
People got memories back, people did not get goods back. People now want to travel, people have realized gold, jewelry, bags, they're of no value. Traveling is of value, experiences is of value, family travel is of value. So we got a lot of queries, even our planning and whole structure changed from women travelers, single travelers, solo travelers, family travelers, kids friendly holidays. People want to carry memories back than just going on shopping tours. I think Indians particularly were a lot into shopping before. That has changed exponentially after the pandemic. Customers have got to the travel consolidators, and then travel consolidators have given us that feedback that the customers want to travel in a boutique hotel run by a homestay where they can learn pasta making, or they can go on a snow skiing mountain where very few people are coming because they want to take private lessons. The whole family wants to take the lessons together. These were all fancy things before. These were only perceived by the super rich. But now the upper middle class in India is so powerful, so well aware that they are practically doing all of the experiences that the riches were doing before.
So how's the company doing turnover wise?
So turnover wise, we're actually a business where our margins are pretty high. So in 2023, we did a turnover of about 8 crores, which was not bad because we work on services. Services margins are high. We are not producing goods. So we've done well, but saying that, we can have a great turnover, but we can also have great losses if we make mistakes in our business. So in terms of profit, I think we have a long way to go, and it's also a long way to go because you're always more greedy. You want to do better. But I think we are only here to grow. We will grow our portfolio. We will do better. How we change our business is a constant reminder to my mind every day. And now we are becoming Sri Lanka specialists because we've been working with Sri Lanka as a country for the last 8 years. So we're trying to become Sri Lanka specialists, where we tell people that, hey, if you want to go to Sri Lanka, there's no one better than us.
Right.
And we have to invest into AI. If any company who doesn't invest into AI and technology, I don't think they will survive after 5 years.
Really?
Yeah, I strongly believe today 50%, no, rather 70% of our work is on WhatsApp. We are even giving up emails. So how can we not have AI? Our bills come on AI, on WhatsApp. Our conversations with our clients who've been very serious and stern happen on WhatsApp. Our approvals are on WhatsApp groups. And human intervention is lesser and lesser, which does not mean that we will not work with staff, which means that staff will also work with precision and more planning.
Right.
And the only thing that fears me today is technology, nothing else. We are writing emails. There's a funny anecdote. One of our clients was asking me that, is this colleague of yours the same who writes to me? I said, yes, he's the same guy. I said, but why did you ask me this question? He said, because when he has written to me over a year, I had a different perception of him versus when I talked to him. Because my colleague throughout the year was writing emails to him on ChatGPT. So it looks so fancy and perfect. Cut. Now my client met my colleague. So the interface was very different. And I said, well, but the work happened. So if a ChatGPT can make my work easier, then why not?
A lot of people don't probably prefer booking online, and they would prefer that human touch through an agent. Will that also change?
That will not change. That will not change in India because we are a very Indians as a community. We love talking. We are very people driven. So living in India and not having intervention by travel agent or a travel company or a travel consolidator is not going to work here.
Okay.
Online companies can always be very good for hotel bookings, airline booking, but planning a trip, my personal suggestion is always go to a travel agent, travel consultant, or a travel enthusiast, because when trouble comes, it's only the human intervention that helps you, and they have lived the journey of travel before you. They have been to that place, so the way they will book for you, I don't think an online company can do it. I know if online partners would hate me for saying this, but a travel consultant, a travel agent in India still stands very, very strong.
So thank you, Komal, for the great insights that you gave us. This was Komal with us, and she shared very interesting insights about the travel industry. We'll be back next week with yet another interesting episode.